This is Karen Ranzi of Feel Fabulous with Food. And I am here today with John Kohler of OK Raw, Growing Your Greens, and Discount Juicers on YouTube. I'm really excited to be with John. I've known John for many years. I met him at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. We started there years ago together, and I'm excited to be with him right now at the Texas Fruit Festival. And he just did a talk today. It was amazing. And I wanted to bring him on here to ask him some questions about raw food, how to eat raw, and just what happened to him, what's his life experience. So I know that you started out, you had a diagnosis, you were quite ill. Can you start by just telling us what happened and how going to raw food changed your life?
Sure. So my story briefly, Karen, is that I had spinal meningitis and almost lost my life in the hospital. The doctors had no cure for me. So then luckily I could only see through higher powers. I was able to make it out of the hospital since they had no treatment for me. But then when I left the hospital, the doctor said I had a complement immune deficiency, which is basically they blamed a bad immune system on my genes and said that I could get a reoccurrence of that disease or any other disease. I'm more susceptible because my immune system is not as strong as a normal person. So then I need to figure out how do I build my immune system and make it stronger so that I don't get sick again. And basically one thing led to another. I found juicing, found cleansing, and then I found raw foods. And for me, that was like, the best way to build my immune system is to feed my body the foods that we were designed to eat.
Great. And some people come into the raw food community and get really excited about it today, especially as it's growing. But some people come in and they make some mistakes. I made mistakes myself.
I made mistakes too.
Yeah. And so what are, let's say 3 of the main ones that you see and maybe even that you made, because I definitely made some mistakes initially, and that you would suggest for people to avoid them right from the beginning?
That's a good question, Karen. So I think number one, like when I started, and I think you did this also, is eating too many dried fruits and nuts. Because, they're so concentrated, and you could eat a lot of them. And yes, while they are raw, we might both personally agree that eating like some steamed vegetables is healthier than eating overeating dates and nuts, right? For example, not to say that they don't have a place, because yes, you could eat some, but I would literally buy blocks of date paste and then drizzle nut butter on them and eat it like bread.
Yeah.
And that was I shouldn't have been doing that, honestly.
I did that too.
Yeah, and it's it's just because it's very satisfying and very calorically dense, and you're used to eating dense foods, and when you go raw vegan, you should be eating more water-rich foods that aren't quite as pleasurable or aren't quite as filling, and you need to really get used to that. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the number one that's one of the mistakes I made that I believe still to this day many people make, because it's so satiating and it's so delicious, and it lights up our dopamine when we eat excessively sweet things like dates, for example. And then when we have the nuts and the fats with it, it just puts it to the next level.
And also the dates, people do get problems with their teeth. A lot of the times it is from eating too much dried fruit. Yeah. So we want to really stay away from that, even though it is really delicious, but it just isn't really healthy. And also you were talking about the combination itself.
Right.
The combination of the fat and the sweet fruit does not digest very well together. So that's another component. And what else?
So another thing I would say I made early on, and is biting me in the butt more these days, is not eating enough greens and vegetables, right? Especially leafy green vegetables. My goal every day is to eat 2 pounds of leafy greens. You might be like, oh my God, John, that's a lot of greens. So I cheat. One of the pounds is I juice it. So I easily get a pound, or usually more than a pound, in my green juice in the morning. And now I do count if I juice it, because I'm still getting the majority of the nutrients out of the greens, less some of the insoluble fiber, but I keep the soluble fiber. All right. And I think that many people, unfortunately, don't eat enough greens on this diet. Fruit tastes great. I'm not going to deny fruit doesn't taste great. And fruit, it does have sugar in it. And it is, yes, because it comes with other nutrients, water, fiber, phytonutrients, vitamins, and minerals. It is actually healthy for us. But I'm sorry, overeating any different food is unhealthy because you're overeating it. So if you eat too much fruit and then you literally don't eat any vegetables, my opinion is that's overeating fruit. But you do need to eat enough calories on a raw vegan diet, whether you're getting them from fruit, a little bit of nuts and seeds. You're gonna get a few calories from vegetables, not so many. Root vegetables contain more, but you could also do things like sprouted, grains and beans, certain beans like lentils, could be sprouted and eaten. And if you want to maintain your raw food label to, stay raw. But I think that greens and other vegetables are essential for a raw vegan diet. And you should at least eat half as many pounds of vegetables as you eat in fruit. I mean, that's like a ratio that I came up with.
And also the minerals in the greens. I ended up early on, back in the 90s, when I went raw vegan, I ended up with a mineral deficiency because I was eating so much fruit and I wasn't eating enough greens. I would have a small salad. So, we're talking about really bulking up on those greens. And I think like 1.5 to 2 pounds is really the way to get enough greens in. Green smoothies, green juices, salads, getting in as much greens as possible and really focusing your salads on the greens.
Right.
Great.
Wonderful, Karen. So I think the last tip I want to give everybody, one of the things I think that could cause a lot of failure is too much restriction on a raw vegan diet. Whether you want to only restrict to I'm only eating non-hybridized fruits because that's what this doctor said, or whether you're going to restrict to only fruits and tender leafy greens and not eat any cruciferous, because some raw food teachers say don't eat any cruciferous greens. Some teachers will say don't eat any greens. Some people will say only eat fruit. The thing I've seen over time and with myself is that the more restrictive you get, the more likely you are to fail and not succeed in the long run. And I hate when I see videos online that says, no longer raw vegan and they're eating carnivore now. It's and it's just some of these simple things by not restricting, by eating a wider variety of different fruits and vegetables instead of just buying bananas and dates and romaine lettuce every week at the grocery store. And yes, you could be raw and have the raw label eating those 3 items only, smashing 30 bananas a day. I personally don't believe that's healthy, and that we should eat apples, eat oranges, eat bananas, eat Asian pears, eat persimmons, eat figs, eat grapes, eat every,
so much variety.
Yeah, eat so much, every different kind of fruit that you could find that you could eat them all. And the same thing with greens. And if you want to have a bigger variety of greens than going to Whole Foods or your local grocery stores, go to an Asian market or an ethnic market. They have so many different greens there and tropical greens that we should aspire to eat more of, that unfortunately is not talked a lot about in the raw food movement. I think would be great.
Yeah, and sprouting as well.
Yes, sprouting
then
and
that
microgreens.
opens up a whole nother world, right?
Yep,
of
absolutely.
Just having all this abundance, all of this variety, and that's key. I think you said today in your talk, at least 30 different foods
a week.
Different plant foods every week. So you want to be getting in all of this different variety because that's what builds good bacteria in the gut microbiome.
Exactly. So most people never eat sunchokes or eat sunchokes, yocone, if you could find it or grow it, or eat jicama. Those are tuberous roots that you could easily eat raw, that taste good, that don't need to be cooked, that are really rich in things like inulin, right? That have the prebiotic fibers that feed our gut bacteria. Most raw vegans may never even eat those foods, unfortunately, because they're all focused on greens, tender greens, and fruit, right? And there's so many other root crops that you can eat. Onions also have a good microbiome building fiber in there as well, the inulin.
Yeah. So you want to just make sure that you have all of this abundance of variety in there. And I know that you have one more that's really important, John, about eating locally. Could you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. So I think for me, Karen, it's about I want everybody out there to improve the quality and nutrition in the foods you eat. So for example, if you most raw vegans go to the grocery store or Whole Foods and just buy produce there. And the produce you're buying in the store, the vegetables are basically vegetables that are grown in the cold season and can travel and ship well under cold storage, right? So you're eating temperate climate crops for vegetables, not tropical crops for the most part. And then also the fruits have been grown specifically not for nutrition, but for maybe sweetness. But even more important than sweetness is a lot of the fruits you're buying in the store are grown to be able to be picked early and then shipped and not get damaged. And so when things are picked too early, Karen, as you know, the nutrition is less.
The nutrition is so low.
Yeah, and the
by the
flavors
time
are
you
less because the flavors are the nutrition. When you taste something that really has really good deep flavor, not just sugar, but deep flavor, that's an indicator of some of the nutrients in there. So like, how do you rectify this? Because everybody buys their stuff at the grocery store. Well, there are other options. So I mean, I do several options. So one, the best is to grow your own food. Now I know everybody can't grow their own food. I mean, I have even a tract house, and in a tract house I grow like the majority of my leafy greens and vegetables year round. I have some fruit trees that I grow as well. And then, but I still don't grow as much as I need. So what I do then is I go out every week. I visit local farms in my area. One is a U-pick farm, the other farm, they pick it for you. So at least when I go to the U-pick farm, I choose the ripeness I want to get. And trust me, I don't pick unripe fruit to bring home, like only if it's gonna, if I pull it, you know, and it comes off easily in my hand, like that's the right stuff, that's what I want, right?
Yeah.
So when you're supporting local agriculture, you're gonna be eating seasonally. And also, you know, especially if it's a U-pick farm, you could get the best quality produce. Of course, the other farm, they already pick everything ripe, and then I get to select the ripest things out of what they already grew. But then also, once again, it is locally grown, so it's like literally off the vine that morning. I bring it home, and then I eat it within that week. And I make these trips to the local farms every single week. At the farms, I generally buy usually fruit. It's rare that I'll buy any vegetables because I grow all the ones, you know, in my garden. But then even then, I don't have enough stuff to eat with the local farms and my garden. So then I go to the standard, you know, Sprouts Farmers Market, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, natural grocers to buy organic food and doing the best I can. And once again,
But you're supplementing.
But I'm supplementing
with all of those, you know, after
local,
eating all the other local
right,
foods.
so
that's the majority
right,
of what
so
you're
my
eating.
goal is to eat number one first out of my garden. Because why? Because it's free, cheap, and the best food, better than the local farms near me, right? And so I try to eat the most of the food out of there, make different recipes utilizing all the things I use. Then after that, then I eat foods that are local. And then if I you know, run out of those, then I'm eating other foods that I bought that are organic from the local store, from the standard produce industry. And of course, the other thing, after organic food stores, I'll go to ethnic stores. So I'll go to Mexican, Hispanic markets, Asian markets, and I'll source foods that you can't buy at a regular organic store at these other markets, like jackfruit, for example, like rambutans, like lychee, like long on, right? And especially some cool varieties of mushrooms that, you know, just the most American supermarkets won't have.
Wow, sounds amazing. And also, I just wanted to make one last point that in the winter time, let's say when you can't get out to a local organic farmer, you can't have your garden if you're in the north where it's colder, you can also sprout on your kitchen counter. So that's what I do in the wintertime. I do a lot of sprouting right on my kitchen counter. Jar sprouting, which is so easy, which can be added to all these wonderful foods that you go out and you get locally. Even in the winter, you can get local food. A lot of people think you can't, but you can find local farmers, just what John's talking about here.
Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want you guys to check me out at Growing Your Greens
Growing
YouTube
Your Greens.
for how I grow my food. And I live in Las Vegas, the second hottest city in the U.S. This summer we had over 110 days of 100 degrees, but my garden, some of the plants are like 12 feet tall. I have videos on that. And also I want you guys to check me out on OK Raw, where I share my raw food and plant-based knowledge with you guys, as well as if you're looking for any equipment like vacuum blenders or slow juicers, check me out at Discount Juicers YouTube channel. So thank you, Karen.
Cool. Thank you so much. See you on the next video. Please subscribe to this channel at Feel Fabulous with Food. Like and comment below.